Let me first get this out of the way. I played the original Cthulhu Death May Die Season 1. I didn't play Season 2. Season 1, I might have played a couple scenarios and I lost them all. The game kicked my ass. So just know that this perspective's coming from somebody that's not a connoisseur of Death May Die, that really enjoyed his time with the original Death May Die, but sucked and wasn't very good. So if you are a grizzled veteran and watching this probably isn't going to be particularly relevant to you. If you're somebody that might be new to the franchise and you're wondering, is this the entry point for you to get into Cthulhu Death May Die? I'm going to answer that. So this game just popped up out of nowhere, for me at least, on every online retailer's website. I was surprised because I've been waiting for the update that they're actually delivering this game, and then maybe I was going to try and get it secondhand, you know, for the channel, for the content, all of that stuff. But to my delight, it came to me first before backers. This not what this video is about, but that is an odd curiosity. So just know that this is not all of the extra stuff. This is just the core, no Kickstarter exclusives, no season 4. It's just the thing that you can go and get right this second. I'm going to first go over for you noobs in this series what exactly Cthulhu Death May Die is, because I very much couldn't wrap my head around what this game was when I had heard all of the other board game YouTubers just gush over this game. If you are not new to this, you could technically fast forward or help my retention and stay here. But after that, we're going to get into kind of a breakdown of all of the investigators, the episodes, some Elder One talk, and kind of break down each and every one and talk about my enjoyment of it. But before we get there, what is Cthulhu Death May Die Fear of the Unknown? Guess what? It's a lot like the original Cthulhu Death May Die. All of the rules apply with the exception of the unknown part that are optional modules, but really it's more of the same. Each game you play, you're going to choose one of 6 episodes, once again, if you're in the core box, and each episode is connected to an objective. That objective you have to complete in order to summon the Elder One. This giant, frankly beautiful, huge, actually it's kind of grotesque, not really beautiful, the huge Elder One onto the map and then beat it. You do that with investigators. Investigators are asymmetric characters that have 3 skills. 2 of the skills are from like a shared pool. Each investigator will have some commonality with other investigators, but there's one skill in particular that makes that investigator unique. You upgrade these skills by actually going insane. That's probably the most, I don't know, interesting mechanic, this push-pull and getting more and more insane, which actually makes you more and more powerful. But at the same time, it's one of the ways you lose the game. Of course, the other way is if you die completely. And if you die before the Elder One is summoned onto the board, everyone dies. You're just done, or go mad, or whatever it might be. If the Elder One is on the board, everyone can kind of keep on fighting, but you have to still sit there dead. The rules to this game are actually incredibly simple, which is a big feature and a selling point of this game. On your turn, you choose 3 actions. 4 actions are always the same, and then each episode has 2 episode-specific actions that are related to the objective you're trying to complete to get that Elder One. You either run around the board, which means move 3 spaces. You can attack, which means rolling dice and hoping you get successes. If you're safe, meaning no other monsters are on your space, you can rest and heal your health or your stress. Stress is sort of a resource that you are managing to mitigate bad die rolls. It's also a resource that is consistently being taken from you with something called the Mythos deck. See, after you've done all of your actions, you have to draw a card from the Mythos deck. This Mythos deck, even in the rule book, it states that you're going to absolutely learn to hate this deck, and you do. You turn each card over waiting for hell to be brought upon you, and it typically does. In many forms, usually it's moving monsters in your space, stopping you from being able to perform the preferred last step, which is to investigate. If there's nothing on your space, you're safe, you can investigate, which you draw a wonderful discovery card. That discovery card, though, typically costs you either a wound or stress in order to slot it in the way you want to. And it has 2 different sides. A lot of times, if you can't spend the stress, you have to take a negative condition. So knowing before you go and actually draw one of these cards, you probably want to have some stress available. There are some instances where it asks you to take a wound. These cards are awesome. They are episode specific. So a lot lot of times they have to do with the theme and the lore of the episode, on top of giving you tools to actually go and fight against all of these monsters sitting around the map. Speaking of, each map starts, it's kind of like a dungeon. It's a dungeon crawler, essentially, where you're moving from room to room. There are monsters that are pre-spawned that you have to go and fight with that attack action. And those Mythos cards will spawn more and more and more and just make things worse and worse. The other thing about that Mythos card is that when you draw a card with an Elder sign, you put it to the side, and once you gather 3 of those, the Elder one moves on its track. More bad stuff happens to you every single time that Elder one moves. Eventually, if it moves far enough, it'll actually come out onto the board. But if you don't have the objective completed, you can't fight it, but it can fight you. So you want to get those objectives completed as fast as possible. I had mentioned that those monsters being on your space stop you from investigating and getting those juicy discovery cards. If they're on your space, they attack you. And that's basically how you die, is being stuck on spaces with them ready to attack you. Now, you could end your turn on a space with a monster knowing that it's going to attack you, or you're rolling the dice per se, not really rolling the dice, but you're drawing the Mythos card, hoping that one of those monsters doesn't get placed on your spot to actually fight you. And if maybe you have a couple health left and you were really banking on a monster not being there, that is a very easy way to die. And it's all because you drew the wrong card. So first, an overall critique of the system that is Cthulhu Death May Die. This relates to basically all of the content in these core rules. There's definitely interesting decisions around luck mitigation. And a lot of times that's what this game comes down to. Like I had just mentioned, you're hoping that a monster doesn't come into your space, but you know very well that Mythos deck could make a monster pop in there. So if you haven't mitigated and try to do too much on your turn, whether it be episode specific actions or attack or not heal, actually, then you're exposing yourself, and you know very well that that monster could defeat you and completely end your game prematurely. On top of that, this push pull and insanity and, upgrading your character and actually being able to roll more and more dice as you go up that insanity track is what makes this game fun. That juxtaposition with the good and it ultimately being bad, meaning you will actually go crazy and lose the game, is what makes this thing fun. With that said, though, you could do everything in your power to mitigate disaster. And if you do play too conservatively, the clock is going to run on you and you are absolutely going to lose out, because that Elder one is coming for you eventually. You're eventually going to draw enough of those Elder symbols, bring that Elder one out on the map and not be able to attack it, and you will die. So you have to play aggressive. There isn't a ton of leeway for conservatism in this game. Really, you could be one roll away, roll too many insanity symbols, hit the next mark on that insanity track, and trigger an insanity card. I didn't even mention these. Every character gets an insanity card. Typically, if you meet a condition on there could be a good thing that happens to you, but mostly it's the bad stuff. So it could trigger a monster all of a sudden being on your space without even having to draw the negative Mythos card. Meanwhile, you could draw the negative Mythos card, and then they all attack you, and you very easily can lose plenty of health, enough health to actually die. And this game definitely does not feel fair. But that's not why you play it. You don't play it to have kind of this perfect information puzzle that you're trying to solve. It's just, you're just kind of going out there, whacking monsters. Certainly there's strategic decisions to be had, but there is a ton of feel bad moments. With the feel bad moments, there's a few feel good moments, at least for myself, when I hardly ever win. But when you do, it feels great. If you're winning all the time, it probably wouldn't feel very great. Regardless, overall in the system, I do enjoy this. This isn't my type of game. I'm not a miniature game dungeon crawler guy. As much as I do enjoy that stuff, it's not the main thing I play. I like that perfect information Euro puzzle that I'm trying to solve. But I also do, enjoy some just like cool kind of kick-ass theme where you go around and smack monsters around. And this does feel cerebral up until you draw the wrong card or roll the wrong roll. Regardless, it's it's good. It's a very good system and well loved for a good reason, but not for everyone if you don't like bad luck and dice rolls. I had mentioned each investigator is an individual. Each investigator has 3 different skills. It's not just a signature skill that makes them unique, it's also the other 2 skills in combination, but don't get it twisted. That signature skill is why you are spending so much on the Kickstarter to get 1,000 of these investigators, because you want them to do cool stuff. And that's where my first kind of like eyebrow raise on this game happened, is this question: do all of them do cool stuff? I'm going to run down really quickly an oversimplification, overgeneralization of each of these characters and tell you why I like them or don't. So of the 10 characters, there's 2, Mike and Julian, that basically deal with luck mitigation. They make it a little bit easier to succeed. Mike has proficient, allowing you to re-roll more dice. If you fully upgrade it, you are healing wounds and stress on top of all of that, just basically giving you more opportunities to actually re-roll dice and succeed. And with Julian and Silent Witness, he is basically mitigating through rolling insanity. And by the time you upgrade him completely, you're also able to not gain the insanity if you don't want to. When playing both of them, I maybe felt a little less constrained, but I wasn't coming to an episode with any sort of different strategy per se. Then there's Agatha, Stella, and Leon. All of them just make you more powerful. Typically when you attack, you can only target one enemy in a space or one space away if you have marksman. But with Stella, you can actually target multiple enemies, and once you have it fully upgraded, you can deal all the wounds, which absolutely feels great. And once fully upgraded is fun, but in general, isn't a huge difference in the way I play the game. Agatha, you're just doing extra wounds when you attack. To me, nothing particularly remarkable here. I like that she has marksman, giving her some sort of range, but wasn't overly fun. Leon is probably of these 3 the most interesting to me, because Leon needs to be in a space and eventually just within proximity of other investigators to be able to be more powerful. That does add an extra wrinkle, something in which you're strategically trying to do, whether you're playing kind of two-handed solo or cooperatively with someone else. Aligning with where you're going to go to make Leon the most powerful is a strategic addition, just not enough that stayed interesting for me. Similar to Leon, there's a couple other characters that basically ask you to be within proximity to do stuff, and they're support characters. They're the classic support characters that will help the other investigators be more and more powerful if they're in the same space. With Sally, or out of the box, she just gets to follow another investigator, but then eventually give them more and more of the green dice to become more and more powerful when they attack. As you upgrade Sally, she gets a little more interesting. When another investigator in your space rests, you may heal 3 wounds and stress in any combination. Once again, you're wanting to follow somebody around. She is a photographer, so that does make sense. And once per turn, you or an investigator in your space may perform 1 free action. It does give you more power. I like how with Sally, it's not just a progression of one thing being more powerful. She just kind of becomes a powerhouse as long as she's tagging along with another investigator, which, by the way, isn't the best thing. You're definitely making a big trade-off when you're trying to fulfill objectives out on the board in the episode. Sometimes splitting up is definitely what you want to do. So as much as Sally might feel really powerful, she becomes incredibly weak the moment you have to split up. Then there's Peter's. His art is one of my favorite. He's who I played first. I mean, the surgeon with like a hacksaw in his hand. How cool is that? So when you kill an enemy, heal 1 stress or wound on an investigator in your space. Once again, it's a healer support character. Instead of 1, heal the total health of killed enemy in any combination stress or wounds. Once again, it's pretty cool. You may divide the healing amongst you and an investigator with 1 space in that 3rd spot. And then instead, you and each investigator within 1 space heal the total amount. So Peter is a healer. Those 2 are slightly more interesting to me than the kind of like the power class or the luck mitigation class, if you will. They're probably the most interesting. As much as I love to be more and more powerful, I found that these are at least useful, and I actually like to play those with my top 3 characters. So of the 10, I found 3 very interesting. In the number 3 spot, it's Ruth. Ruth, on paper, when I first looked at her, looked incredibly boring. She's basically, I guess, the Flash. She can run all around. I mean, she can run 4 spaces instead of 3. She has a sneak ability that allows her to sneak past enemies, which I didn't mention. When you run through a room, you bring all the enemies with you. So being able to sneak past them is pretty important. But this is one of the characters where, in my mind, the other kind of common skills really enhance the core unique signature skill. First off, you start by being able to heal 1 stress every time you sneak. So you do want to be running all around the map. This is the opposite of any sort of support characters or those characters that need to be in spaces with other investigators. She needs to run. Sly starts to get much more interesting once you upgrade it, because once you upgrade it the first time, every time you sneak past an enemy, you actually do a wound. Then once you upgrade it again, instead you can heal 1 stress or wound and deal a wound to an enemy. And being the reporter that Ruth is, once you fully upgraded Sly, she can actually investigate without having to get through that Mythos card for free if she ends on a safe space, which is huge. I mean, a lot of these episodes you need to investigate to be able to find the right discovery card to fulfill your mission or disrupt the ritual, which now that I'm saying that, I don't think I actually mentioned that. I said that there was objectives. It's technically you're always disrupting a ritual. So I had a lot of fun with Ruth. I had, as much as I don't feel like she's particularly powerful, I felt like she was interesting, and she absolutely made me play this game completely differently than all of the others. Where with the others, the most interesting of those 7, the strategic decision that I enjoyed the most was kind of trying to be within proximity of other investigators, which I had mentioned is not ideal in a lot of instances. In this instance, Ruth wants to run everywhere, and once you get her upgraded, she is pretty fun to play. I will say getting her fully upgraded, like getting to that 4th spot, you are pretty late in the game when you do so. So, she's not incredibly powerful the entire time. Next up is Sandra. I love Sandra. So Sandra, first of all, the common skills in my mind are 2 of the absolute best. Brawling in the same space, you start with getting an extra die. And Arcane Mastery lets you use star results on dice as successes. Both of those, in my mind, are the most fun to use and my favorite common skills throughout this entire game. But on top of that, she has Relic Seeker, and relics are introduced new. This is one of the big new things in Fear of the Unknown. Relics are a complement to the unknown system where it makes this game actually harder, but you can play with just relics. However, with Sandra, she gets to start with relics. She gets 2 random ones. You get to pick one. And once fully upgraded, instead of discovering discovery cards, she can actually get an upgraded or transformed relic card. So each of these relic cards start with like this white side, and eventually once you get enough insanity, you flip them over and they become more powerful. The thing I like about her is she draws from this well of different abilities that are the relic cards, so she can feel completely different each and every game depending on the relic card she gets. I absolutely love that. I'm playing with her different every single time, and to me, she's completely S tier in this game. I really enjoy playing with her, and if I'm choosing, it's going to be one of these 2 each and every time. Sandra is definitely high on the list. And the last one I thought was one of the most interesting, just out of the gates, looking at the art. And then I initially read the signature skill and wasn't particularly overwhelmed because this is a defense character in Hoi Kong. But this really had me playing this game totally different, similar to Sandra, but very specific in Hoi Kong, where he doesn't have these different relics. You're really trying to get attacked, because if you get attacked and you get missed completely, bad things happen for the enemies and good things happen for you. This is another character where the other common skills also really synergize well with that signature skill. Let's just go over it. So he has self-defense. When attacked, if no wounds are dealt, you heal 1 stress and may push the attacker 1 space away. That's luck. How many times do they actually roll and miss? I have had it. It doesn't happen too often, but it is also really awesome being able to push them away. You keep upgrading that, then you have 1 free reroll when attacked. Okay, that's good. And remember, you can spend stress to reroll as well, so that could definitely help you. Then you have 1 additional free reroll when attacked, so 2 total. And then by the end, when attacked by a cultist or monster, if no wounds are dealt, you kill the attacker. Oh, that's so cool. I will say, once I finally get to that spot, a lot of the times I'm trying to battle the elder one, but it is a nice bonus as more and more of these monsters start to get thrown out there, especially in these late stages when you are just hanging by a thread, being able to essentially get free kills and mitigating all of those attacking dice rolls just feels good. He has swiftness, so he can kind of run all around. He gets that extra space and that whole tree, which I don't tend to upgrade when I've played with him. But then toughness. Toughness is the complement to his signature skill. First and foremost, he's already getting a free reroll when being attacked. Then instead, he's just stopping from being wounded straight up. You don't even have to reroll. And then instead, he can reduce wounds taken and loss of insanity by 1 from any source. And instead, he can reduce wounds taken by 2 and loss of sanity by 1 from any source. So by the end of the game, it's hard to hit Hoi Kong, and he's very, very swift, hence his swiftness. He's running all around the board. I think he was the most consistently fun to play. Sandra does rely upon which relic that she gets. Hoi Kong is just Hoi Kong. He is a defensive beast that becomes offensive once fully upgraded. And it's actually funny. Those two were my favorites. And then I looked on the campaign, and who is pictured in the main art when it's laying out all the stuff you get in Fear of the Unknown? It's those two. And I think it is not by accident that those two were featured, because they clearly are, to me, by far the most interesting characters in this game. And with all of that said, I was pretty disappointed that there were 7 characters that, frankly, I'm not excited to play. I think there's some nice compliments, but the 3 core characters I went over, I'm excited to get to the table. So basically, I could rotate those 3 out with maybe a couple of the support characters when playing solo, and have, you know, a few different combinations. But this idea of getting 10 investigators to play with, it doesn't feel like I have 10 investigators to play with. But good news is this entire game is not investigators. Investigators are your tools, but episodes are your playground. There's 6 episodes that come in this box. Let's talk about them. Each of these episodes are comprised of those aforementioned Mythos cards. Those Mythos cards are mixed with the Elder One cards, so it's a shared Mythos deck and gives you a unique experience depending on the Elder One that you have and the episode that you have. I'm not going to go over in detail what all of these episodes are, because I've once again sort of categorized them based upon the objective to disrupt the ritual. Of the 6, 4 of them are a different version of a pick up and deliver, where you go to a space, get a thing, and take it to another space. There's totally different thematic applications, and you're possibly, if you're a big theme person, I could see the lore and the theme and the discovery cards and like interacting with the episode and how all that ties together might be particularly interesting. But from a core mechanical perspective, and once again, this is general, this is probably too general and probably not fair, but it does come down to picking up a token and delivering a token to be able to do a thing. For the sake of this video's length, though, I'm not going to go into them. I'm going to be unfair and just simply say they're pick up and deliver. They're fine. From one to the next, especially from a replay perspective, after I've already played, and mind you, you're going to be playing these episodes a lot just to win, or at least me. Maybe I suck. They didn't feel different. Yes, there's different words on a card. Yes, there's different thematic applications, but I am picking a token up and delivering a token somewhere to eventually disrupt the ritual and get the Elder One out on the board so I can defeat it. Are they challenging? Absolutely, they're challenging. Do they give you a different form of pickup and deliver? Yes, they do. But to make up that much of the box with a pickup and deliver mechanic, I don't know. Let's look at the other 2 and then make some judgments, though. In the Isle of the Damned, this is my second favorite of the 6. You basically fight your way up to a spire. And the reason you're fighting your way to a spire is because every time you defeat a cultist, you get a key. That key goes unflipped on your board. Then you make it to a door. That door has a lock. If you have a key and you're on the same space as a lock, you can use one of the episode's specific actions to flip both of them. If they match, you unlock the door. If they don't, you have to flip them back over and shuffle your keys up. And if you have more than one key, you're not going to know which one you're going to draw this next time. I thought that was really interesting. While it's not very fair, and if you have a bunch of keys on you, it's going to suck to waste actions trying to open that door. But thematically, I think that's so cool. It's a great mechanical difference. It has me play the game differently. Maybe I don't want to actually go and defeat all of those cultists immediately. I just thought it was interesting, and more interesting than the other aforementioned pickup and delivery games. But the one that really caught my attention and frankly had me judge the first 4 pickup and delivery games so harshly was Festival of Death. This is by far the most unique episode in the entire box of Fear of the Unknown. You have to go around and win carnival games. You have to win each carnival game twice in order to disrupt the ritual. And these carnival games are unique. This is a great thematic design in my mind. So there's the game of fortitude. If you have 2 or more drunk conditions, discard 1 to win. You can get the drunk conditions by investigating spaces. In the discovery deck, there's a bunch of the drunk condition, but they are not good. I won't spoil it for you, but you don't want the drunk condition. It is having you do something different. You're having to go find safe spaces to investigate and get discovery cards with that drunk condition. There's a game of strength, which is essentially having you roll dice for successes. I won't ruin it, but there's ways in which to become more successful in this game of strength, but it's just another different thing that I'm trying to do to win this game. And then lastly, the most interesting of them all is the game of skill. And I'll read it verbatim. Position a green die touching this space. Flick it. If it lands touching the space with a bullseye, you win. You may rearrange other components before flicking as long as they remain in the same spaces. It's a dexterity game. They literally put a dexterity game in the episode of being in a carnival to disrupt the ritual. That felt so unique relative to the other pick up and deliver games. The lock and key Isle of the Damned also felt unique because there's this game of chance and this other mechanism other than picking up and delivering stuff somewhere. Although it's technically another version of pick up and deliver if I'm honest, but I wanted more Festival of Death. I wanted all of them to feel like Festival of Death. I can remember Festival of Death. I have to go and look through the other cards to really remember the nuances of the first 4. And once again, now there's 4 episodes that I don't mind playing, but they're not memorable. And there's 2 episodes that are memorable. One in particular that was great. And it just had me think, is all of the cool stuff locked behind the episode 4 box or the unknowable box? And to get all of the really interesting and unique scenarios, do I need to go buy it all? I went and kind of looked through episodes 1 and 2. Once again, for brevity, we're not going to go into the specifics, but I did find that there are some more interesting investigators in episode 2. The Unspeakable box, frankly, had the most interesting investigators, and I'm guessing the Unknowable box also has all of the interesting investigators as well. And not all. I'm going to be fair. There's still interest in these investigators. There's just not enough of them. I felt like there is a big portion of this game that's kind of a take it or leave it to me. Like, I really don't care about. And unfortunately, the part of this box that I do care about is so small that I find it kind of frustrating that each product is not as good as the other. Or possibly. I don't know. I don't have the other stuff. I can't judge it. But after buying this, am I motivated to go out and buy the other stuff? Maybe not. The Elder ones definitely should be mentioned. There's only 2 in the box. I'm not even going to try and pronounce these Elder ones' names. Here you go. That one deals with this cosmic token. It makes monsters have a cosmic ability, which basically makes them have more health and also roll more dice at you when they attack. I found it fun. I don't think there's anything to like critique there. It's great. I feel like I hated this one the most, whatever the name is there. This one's Mythos deck hands out fatigue tokens to you and basically takes up a wound spot or stress spot. Mythos cards interact with those and whether you have them or not. And when you have them, more bad stuff happens to you. With this one, I was constantly feeling bad based upon those fatigue tokens. The fatigue tokens just really suck because you can just heal less stress, less health. By the time you're at the end of the game, you've got a ton of them. You have barely any health. You have barely any stress to work with. You're just constantly screwed. No critique. They were fine. They were fun. In particular, they're not really the reason I play this game. It's the investigators and episodes, to me at least, are the things that drive interest in me. But once again, I haven't played all the other ones. These ones might completely suck compared to episode 3, but I have no idea. But with that said, that's not everything that's in this box. Fear of the unknown is highlighted with this new unknown mechanic, which basically gives a new little sideboard with extra unknown monsters. There's new mythos cards that get shuffled in that deal with those monsters as well. They start out on the board in random spaces. That nests with the relics to kind of balance. You can play with just the unknown stuff and not the relics to make it even more hard. But this game's hard enough. I honestly don't find a lot of use for that unknown stuff. I like the relics. I think the relics are awesome. I feel bad though when they're not kind of part of the core experience, right? Like the feeling of beating it doesn't feel as good as if I weren't playing with them. Are they helpful? Yeah, they absolutely are helpful. Are they cool? Yeah, they're cool. But they're not part of kind of like the core achievement of beating, an episode for Cthulhu Death May Die. If they were, I probably would actually rank them higher, but I know it's kind of like, it's just a matter of perspective. That's a silly perspective to have. Like if you need the relics and you find them more fun, go play with them. But I am kind of like feel like an achievement gamer, and I want to know that I beat the thing, not beat the thing with a crutch. To their credit, you do get new monster cards for every other previous monster in both seasons 1 and 2. So that is kind of nice. It allows you to also bring those monsters into this game if you have those previous seasons. I think that all should be commended. That certainly does help with a variety in this game. It's just already so hard. I don't want to bring any more in. So for me, it's not really applicable. The unknown part in the end was fine. The relics are really cool. I'm not going to ever really engage with the extra difficulty on this game. Maybe I get better over time, but the big question is there enough for me here to keep playing over and over again? If there were more investigators and different combos I could play with interesting investigators, it just already feels like with 70% of it essentially, to me, not particularly interesting. I don't know. I might never get there to understand if there is a big skill gap in this game and I just suck, or it's just incredibly punishing and nobody ever wins this thing. I do think if you're a diehard and you ordered episode 3 and 4 and the unknowable box, there's probably going to be tons of really cool stuff. I think Simon definitely has the ability to create unique scenarios and episodes and investigators. There's tons of interest there. The minis look really cool. If you love the Lovecraftian world, I mean, this is the place to be. The system is really fun if you don't mind just dealing with luck mitigation the entire game. The insanity track is cool. Upgrading investigators. There's a lot to like. The big question is, would I recommend just buying the Fear of the Unknown? I wouldn't actually. Straight up no. As much as there's cool stuff here, there's not enough cool stuff for me to spend $109 on this box. It's, for me, unfortunately, I think it's kind of an all or nothing. Like if you want this system and you want it to really pay dividends for you, yeah, you probably need it all. And that's not something I think I've ever really said on this channel. In the end, is that all worth it? I don't know. And I guess worth it at this point to really even have gotten it all. You had to wait 2 years and spent hundreds of dollars. And I don't even know what Simon did to shipping this time around. So I'm conflicted here. I'm conflicted on this overall. I think there's good things, and I think there's just a large percentage that I don't care to actually engage with in the end. And that's it. I don't really have anything else to say. But if you found this interesting or helpful whatsoever, maybe think about subscribing. If you've been with me for a while and you want to kind of take the relationship to the next level, go check out that join sign down below. I do have a membership, the Cardboard Club. We've got a Discord. There's behind the scene looks. I actually have a gameplay of this on there on top of other monthly board game super secret shows. I won't say what that is because it is super secret, but it does seem like the members are enjoying those. Hey members, if you do, comment down below. Let everyone else know that you like those. But if that's not your thing, totally get it. I'm just happy you're here. And with all of that said, have yourself a great week.